7 Eastern, ESPN, The Swamp at night. All right, this one has all the juice and then some. I'm not talking about the Oranges. Florida State favored by 6.5 going to the Swamp now. Florida State, this is the toughest strain on their response mechanism that we will see this year. Because Jordan Travis goes down with a gruesome injury. Doesn't matter who you root for, man. Your heart just broke for 13, dude. That was awful. That was awful. That was tragic. But as you're Florida State now, we don't have time to really get too down in the dumps because we got a football game to play against our rival at their spot. Okay, so when I said the response mechanism, we saw it against Clemson. We saw it against Boston College. We saw it against Duke. Like this team, whenever they get some adversity, they seem to feed off that. This is a whole different kind of adversity. This is a week-to-week adversity. So for them, it's the equivalent of being on a flight and one of those engines going out. Hey, that engine, it's gone. Too bad. We hate that. That breaks everyone's heart. Nobody's happy about that. But we still are in the air. We got to find a way to reach our destination because we can't turn around. We can't make an emergency landing. We got to get to where we're going is where they're at right now. So Florida State handling that situation is going to be the differentiating factor. Goes without saying. Now for Florida, I want to make sure we say this. There's so much said about Billy Napier and his future at Florida, and I think all that's a bit premature, to be honest with you. When I watch Florida play, I see a team that plays for Billy Napier. I see a team that very much so could have packed it up several weeks ago. Could have packed it up in the fourth quarter against South Carolina, came back from 10 down. Could have packed it up against Missouri. 0-0 quit in this team. So, I mean, you say what you want about Florida. I keep seeing a team that's going to play hard from Billy Napier, and I think they'll do that again this week. A chance to go bowling for the Gators, sitting at 5 wins, getting a nice little win here would make it 6. Also, if you beat your rival and spoil their chance at going to the college football playoff, because I don't know if this totally ruins it, but it definitely doesn't help it. And you would have to imagine it would be a nice little feather in the cap for Billy Napier and company as they head into the bowl season and then potentially the off season. There's a song they play in the fourth quarter there. Won't back down. That's where Florida's at right now. I don't think we're going to see them back down in this game. So this will be a lot of fun to watch. Now here's the obvious. Now we got 2 backup quarterbacks, the backup bowl, if you will. You got Tate Rodemaker and you got Max Brown. Max Brown in relief of Graham Mertz. Tate Rodemaker obviously in relief of Jordan Travis. Whenever you got a backup quarterback playing for you, I think what you ask of them is twofold. Because it's not just about, hey, we need you to make the throws downfield. That's the obvious. We need you to be able to keep this offense dynamic. We can't just become one-dimensional as an offense. That's the obvious part of this. I think the more critical part of this is don't make that lethal mistake. Don't make that interception that turns into 6 points. If you make a mistake, have it be, hey, we missed our open read downfield, and instead of getting a touchdown, we had an incompletion or a 7-yard completion or whatever it ends up being. Like, the lethal mistakes for both of these guys could be the difference in the game. Whoever makes the fewest of those, it's going to be critical. Obviously going to be critical, as it would be in any football game, but especially with 2 inexperienced guys, I think we're going to see that show itself a little bit more in a spot like this. Now, I also want to say this. I think the real question when it comes to these backup quarterbacks, yes, it's important for how they play. I think it's more important, arguably, for how you ask them to play. Like, what does the defense do for either side? Do we need our offense to go out and score 30 if we're Florida or Florida State? Do we need our quarterback to put the ball in the air a fair amount? We're living in 3rd and 7 because we can't run the football. A lot of that goes back to defense, obviously, goes back to how you run the football, goes back to game plan. Can we give them a simple menu of plays to allow Tate Rodemaker and Max Brown to just feel comfortable? I don't need to process the entire defense every single snap. I just need to process my one level of the field. Look to my 1 to 2 reads. Okay, we'll live that way. That has to be, I think, how you get down for both Mike Norvell and Billy Napier when they're putting their scheme together this week. Big part of this game for Florida now will be involving Eugene Wilson. We've talked about him a ton. I mean, superstar freshman has been, a spark plug for them offensively. It's fitting that this is Thanksgiving week because I think he is the individual for Florida that sets the table. He sets the table for everybody else to eat. He's their guy they get the ball to going horizontal, whether it's the bubbles, whether it's the jet sweeps, putting pressure on the edge of this Florida State defense. And when you go side to side effectively, you don't really want to live that way too frequently, but when you go side to side, messes with the eyes of a defense, makes going north and south a lot easier because that linebacker's worried about that jet sweep with Eugene Wilson, Hey, do I need to play the perimeter? Well, I'm favoring that side right now, and oh, wouldn't you know it, plays go back the inside, and we just let up a big play. Eugene Wilson will have a massive impact on this game. Because if you can minimize him, well, then you take away, I think, the most explosive part of Florida's offense. Take away just an easy, I don't want to say crutch because that feels like too extreme of a term to use for Max Brown, but that would take away a lot of a support system for him offensively if you can limit that for Florida State. Now, when we look at the rest of this game, I think that there's a chance this game gets very ugly. Like, I think you could watch this game. It could be sloppy. It could be weird. I know there's supposed to be some weather early in the week there in Gainesville. I don't know if it'll be that way on game day, but like it could come down to who's able to hunker down and just win an ugly, boring kind of game. Now, it won't be boring for us watching it because it's got massive implications on the college football playoff and on Florida and all that, but like it might come down to who can just hunker down and say, you know what, we're just going to run the football and play good defense. Hey, special teams has been wild today. Hey, our quarterback's been wild today. We're just going to run the football. And when I look at that style of game, I think that Florida State has a better defense. I think they're better stopping the run. I think they may even end up being better in this game running the football with Trey Benson. I also don't think, and this is probably the most critical part, I don't think Florida State, if they get into a rock fight, if this game is, let's say, 13-7 going into the third quarter, I don't think Florida State's heart rate will go up too much. I think they'll be pretty even keel by nature of what they've had to endure to this point in this season. I like the maturity of this team. So I think this is the Trey Benson game. If you're Florida State, I like him to get the ball early and often. Obviously, with Tate Rodemaker running the show now, you're going to lean more on your run game. Offensive line, we said it on Sunday. This is the game where y'all need to take over. This has to be the spot now where you take the pressure off your young quarterback, get north and south, live in 3rd and 3, and play football that way. It may not be pretty. It may not win a lot of style points, but you check the box. I think Florida State does win this game in the swamp. Raucous environment. Final score 25-17. I would not touch the spread, just to be real here. Rivalry game. Overall, not a great week for the spread, in my humble opinion. But Florida State now, that means you survive and advance. You move on to the ACC championship game undefeated. Very big for Florida State. Find a way to get it done. With a backup quarterback, no less. Hey, y'all. Thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also, be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.